And if we're not doing it, we are breaking the command of God. Pat yourself on the back for your good church attendance. Great. You are still disobedient to God. And it's not like you're going to do the same thing that the pastor's going to do. He's gifted to do what he does. I'm an evangelist. I think I'm gifted because the Bible says I am. If it wasn't for that, I would think I'm not. So I'm equipped to do what I'm supposed to do. And you are not in the office of the pastor or the evangelist, but I will say this. If you are a follower of Jesus, you are commissioned to let your light shine. Now, I close with this. It says, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Now, how many of you have ever been burdened for somebody who's a foreigner in a foreign country, the missionaries going to try to win them to Jesus, and you get a burden for missions? I think we all get that, right? But I tell you what, it's one thing when people out there that we never meet, they live in a foreign country. Of course, I see them all the time because I get blessed to do this. I get blessed to go to foreign countries all the time to preach. I love it. Now, but when you get over there, you see these are real people. But what I'm saying is this. When you think of somebody in a foreign country that you never met, dying and going to hell, it bothers you. But let me ask you this. Would it bother you more if it was somebody who was called your son or your daughter? Would it bother you a little bit more if it was your brother, who really is your physical brother? And here's what I'm saying. Somebody in the house. Now, when I was a fairly new dad, I'm driving in the car with my son, and we're just driving along. It's just me and my big truck, and my boy's over here, and he's about 5 years old, and this is Dad's sometime. We're in the big truck, driving along in the night, and just me with my buddy, and we're driving along. And then I hear what sounds like sniffles over here. So I look over in the dark, and I say, Drew, are you crying? And that little guy turned his head, and he looked at me with crocodile tear eyes, and they're coming down his face, and he said to me, Daddy, I don't think Emmy's ever going to get saved. Emmy is the other 5-year-old girl in the Sunday school class that's not saved. And he talked to her all of his life, a whole 2 weeks. And she had not gotten saved yet. But I was moved by the fact that he was crying about his friend not being saved. And I could go on and say, well, she'll probably get saved because she's 5 and she's going up to church. And he was moved with tears about her not being saved. That's the way we need to be. And I close with this. There was a friend of mine, evangelist Steve Robertson, who I was preaching over there, and he called me into his office, and he said, sit down. And he got all these tears, and he handed me a paper, and he said, read that. So I pick it up, and it says, bus crash with Christian school kids, and several die. And I read this thing, and he said, I know those guys. And Steve Robertson was just all moved with emotion. So I read the story about kids in a Christian school in an automobile wreck, a bus wreck coming back from a football game, and some of them died. But in the story, it talked about one of the cheerleaders. Her dad was a bus driver, and the girl as a cheerleader, they had the wreck, and many of them were sleeping, and flames shot through the whole bus, and it was a long bus ride, so many of them had no shoes on and no socks on because they were trying to sleep on the bus, and I've been on those long trips. And so anyway, when that thing hit, they woke up and they saw themselves engulfed in flames. And so the only way out, the front was all messed up, so they all had to crawl over the metal bus seats, metal frames, to go out the back emergency door. And that fire was so hot, because a lot of them didn't have shoes on, they got blisters and burns on their feet and hands just walking over the seats. But where everybody's pushing out, going out, hurry, get out, get out. There's one that's going, let me through, let me through, let me through. And she's going toward the front of the bus. It was the cheerleader. Her dad was the bus driver. So they're all going out. She's going in. And when she went to the very front, her dad was there and knocked in a daze. She said, Daddy, come on, Daddy. And he woke up and he said, honey, get out of here. No, Daddy, come on, let's go. And I can't. I'm pinned in. Get out of here. Get out of here, baby. You're going to burn. Get out of here. And no, Daddy, we'll get you out of here. And she's pulling and trying to get him out, and she could not get him out. And she says, Daddy, come on. You're going to burn. No, honey, get out of here. I'm pinned in. And the back and forth conversation, finally the dad knew she wasn't leaving, called a couple of football players. Get her out of here! And they pulled up and physically pulled her out of the back of the bus, is what that article said. But you know what was really moving to me? That girl kept trying to jump back on the bus. She kept saying, Daddy! Trying to jump back in. Daddy, you're going to burn! Daddy, you're going to burn! Listen, it's one thing when somebody we do not know dies and goes to hell, and we can't reach everybody. I understand that. But we want to reach people that are in the house. And what I'm saying is that the house might be your family, but it might be just the Upper Peninsula. 600 people here, and a lot of guests that come. That's a pretty big house. Let's bow our heads.